Yoga Pod podcast.
Hello.
Number 8. Is that
8.
right?
It is.
Jana, do I
Yep.
have it up there
You've got it.
correctly?
Yep.
Look at that. And we're here with Gretchen.
Hi, everybody.
I hate to say one of my favorite teachers, but one of my favorite teachers.
Thanks, Ken.
Yeah.
Mine too.
It's bizarre, though, because there isn't a teacher there that I don't like.
I know they're all
Mhm.
amazing.
It's
know.
and that is such like a kind of namby-pamby thing to say, like very PC.
Namby-pamby.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
But it's true. And it's so weird too, because I've been to other studios where I'm like, oh, okay, I'll get through this, you know? And
It's
I
so
just
true.
I don't feel that when I go
Yeah.
there. I'm always like, oh, cool. Or if I haven't had somebody, I'm like, oh, wow, this will be interesting.
Yeah.
You know, let's see what this is like. Anyway, so we're here. I am your co-host, Ken Conti. Jana, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Jana.
Hi, Jana.
I'm actually the co-host, and Ken is the host. So
The
I don't know.
hostess
If,
with the mostest.
I don't know if that makes a difference. But yes, I'm Jana.
All right.
Hello.
Let's talk movies real quick.
Okay.
Why not?
Sounds
You have a favorite movie, Gretchen?
good. Oh man, Love Actually.
Oh, I don't
Who's
think
that
I've
with?
seen that.
Come on.
What's-
Is that the one that
It's
has like
definitely
85,
some sort of rom-com
It's got
thing,
85
right?
Oh,
actors in
Yeah,
it.
okay.
Yeah.
That's
So
all right.
Good.
Yeah.
It's so good. I'm watching The Handmaid's Tale right now.
Okay, I haven't seen that
No,
either.
no. Oh, it's.
Is it
someone said-
dark?
I said, have you seen it? They said it's the most depressing show I've ever seen.
Oh,
in my
okay, so it's a
life.
TV show.
It's a Hulu series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What's your favorite movie, Ken?
I don't know. I don't know why it just came to my mind, but have you ever seen The Ice Storm?
No,
Oh, it's so weird.
I like weird movies.
And it's about.
It's
An ice
about like,
storm.
well, and I think the thing is I have this weird personal connection with it. It's like from the it takes place in the 1970s, and there was this really famous ice storm that happened in Connecticut.
Mhm.
And I actually lived there then, and so it all centers around this ice storm and this big party that happens. Kevin Spacey is in it. I don't know how you feel about him. It's not been great in
Not
the
the best
news
PR
lately.
Not
for
right
him.
now.
But it's a fascinatingly weird movie. Anyway,
Hmm.
I don't know why I just thought of that.
Are you
It's
East
not
Coast-
my favorite movie, but
Are you East Coast native?
Yeah.
Oh, where at?
So the last place I lived was Mount Kisco, New York.
All right.
Yeah, just outside the city.
Mm-hmm.
Born in Connecticut, lived in Vermont.
I love Vermont.
Dad lives in Philadelphia. Mom lives in New Hampshire.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. How about you?
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
Pennsyltucky.
All right. Is it Pennsyltucky is where you
no,
live?
no. 2 hours north of Philly. So Wilkes-Barre, Scranton. Come on, office.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scranton. Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, I knew one of
Scranton.
those places that you guys all
Yeah.
just spouted off about.
Well, I go every year. I go to Gettysburg.
Nice.
For what?
There's a big motorcycle
Oh,
thing
nice.
there, and so
Okay.
I go to Gettysburg Bike Week every year, and I'm always fascinated by how southern it is.
Mm.
Oh, yeah. You could get pretty southern and
It's it's
In parts
cool.
of-
Have you ever been out there, Jana?
I've never been to the East Coast. Well, Florida. Oh, I've been to New York. I've been to the East Coast, but no.
You haven't
I've
been to
never
like the Upper East Coast.
No, I want to though.
It's
yeah.
bananas. Like the scenery there is so shockingly beautiful.
Yeah, that's why I want to go in the fall.
Yeah.
The leaves.
Yeah, for sure.
and- Yeah.
If you do, I've got like a list of places to go.
Okay.
I would like that list of places.
Yeah.
To go.
Yeah,
it's
I
fan-
lived there for 27
it's
years.
it's
but I still-
it's fantastic. Yeah, there's some fun stuff. I've actually went to. There's a great hot studio. Oh, now this is gonna really challenge my. I've been having a really hard time with recall lately. I don't know. There's
Senior
somebody out
moment.
there, I'm sure, that's watching that can give me some advice on what I'm supposed to take so I can remember things. Anyway, I can't remember what the name of the town is, but there's a great hot studio that I go to when I go to Gettysburg. It's like an
Nice.
hour away, but it's well
worth it.
Yeah, totally
Cool.
worth it.
Traditional hot studio.
Yeah, it's the 90-minute,
Yeah.
26 and 2.
Nice.
So,
Awesome.
why don't you introduce yourself, Gretchen?
Well, hello everybody. I am Gretchen Kantz,
Mm-hmm.
yoga teacher at Yoga Pod. Anything else? I have mama, 2 babies. Well, 11 and almost 9.
They're still babies until they don't live at home.
It's true.
Is that the deal?
And a sweet partner, Jacob.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And Gretchen was, she's been with us since the very beginning at the studio.
Thanks to Jana.
I took some of her classes, and I would go in the early morning, and there were a few times when it was just the two of us.
Ooh,
and
that's
so
always interesting.
it was really cool. And then she'd practice with me and we'd stay and talk, and we really connected. And so when we were going through the process of opening the studio, it was like, Gretchen is it. Like, we have to have her. And then it's been really neat to see you grow and evolve over the last year, as all good teachers do continuously. So Gretchen's been really special, and she's responsible for, bringing Kyle and Brad and some of these other
Oh, you're like the recruiter.
refugees in town.
Something like
So
that, yeah.
yeah, so it's been really neat. We're really happy to have her on the team.
Super happy to be on the team. Really,
Yeah.
it's been extraordinary.
And you're that's what you do. You're a yoga instructor.
yoga
Like when somebody says, "Hey, what do you do?"
I am a yoga teacher. Yeah, I don't say instructor. I was taught a long time
Mhm.
ago. It's not we
Oh.
don't
Teacher.
instruct people. We teach people.
Yeah.
And so
Oh,
I
okay.
it kind of like ruffles my feathers a little bit.
Oh,
Like,
really?
it
I
does.
just ruffled your
You
feathers.
ruffled my feathers,
All
Ken.
right.
Yes,
Nice.
the new more correct term is teacher.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I was a kindergarten teacher in a previous life
Really?
in 2001.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's what I
Sometimes
This
yoga
was
is like
for-
teaching kindergarten, isn't
sometimes
it?
they could be unruly, they don't listen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wonderful. I actually love them.
So you said sometimes you had one-on-one classes, like
Mhm.
accidentally.
Yeah.
What's that like?
Well, with Gretchen, it was awesome because I'd walk in and, we'd kind of chat, and then she'd come in and be like, well, nobody else showed up, so it's just you and I. And then she'd ask me what I wanted to work on that day. And then a lot of times you would practice with me, which was always really fun and instructional, like just sit down and kind of break stuff down. And so I always felt like I got a lot of value out of it. Plus, we just connected, and sometimes we
Talked
just
a lot about deodorant.
yeah, we talked about
lot
deodorant and
of
the
deodorant.
weather.
Deodorant.
Because we
Well,
don't like it.
Yeah, so we were
Yeah.
on the search for something natural.
Oh, okay. For you,
Yeah.
not like why don't people wear deodorant?
I was like,
Right.
why don't we wear
Right.
deodorant?
Yeah, so it was really cool. Anytime you can have that opportunity with a teacher, I think, you'll learn so much from it. So
I kind of had the opposite experience. I had Justine do a one-on-one
is
pod
it a
fit class.
That's a different situation.
Yeah. I love Justine. She's awesome.
amazing.
Yeah.
I love her too.
No, it was good, but
Yeah. Pod fit's a different story.
yes.
Speaking of PodFit, if you
Yeah.
haven't tried PodFit at the studio, you have to try it. It's such a good balance to your practice. I mean, Ken, you try to get in. not-
I was until
during
this
Hottober,
Hottober
but
thing happened.
Yeah.
Which is
It's just, I don't think people understand the value of, incorporating the weights, the interval training, the
Sure.
core, all of that, and how it lends to your practice, which is really the point of that class. It's not meant to be the bulk of your membership. It's meant to supplement and balance out
yeah.
your yoga practice. So
Oh, yeah.
if you
I
haven't
can see
tried PodFit, come try
You a big
PodFit.
PodFit fan?
Gretchen's highly competitive.
I am highly competitive.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, super bad. I like fit.
So do you just hurt yourself in it?
No, I just can't walk for days, and
Oh.
then I have to skip like 4 yoga classes because I don't get in often,
Yeah.
and so I'm like, well, I can do probably 3 yoga classes, or I can do a fit for the week and not do anything else because I can't even walk. So it is great. We need it. We need them to build the
Sure.
muscle because we're so flexible. But oh man,
You got to do a fit followed by a hot, followed
Mm.
by another fit. That's the magic combo.
Are you for real?
Yes.
Do you think? Oh,
Have you done that?
that's
Wait,
actually
have
kind
you
of what
done
I,
it?
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
not
on a
in the same
day?
day.
No,
Oh,
no.
I thought you were talking about
Oh
in a
gosh.
day.
No.
Let's
Oh,
talk about multiple yoga classes in a day.
let's talk about it. What do you think?
Well,
I don't know. So my only experience with it is hot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like oppressive.
I have opinions too, Ken.
It's no, I mean, all I can talk about is my experience. I don't have any opinions because whatever. Like if I had the time, I'd probably do more yoga. But to me, like I did some challenge last year. I think it was probably a 30-day challenge, and I was like gone for a chunk of it. So I had to do like 2 in a day, and had to do that like multiple days in a row to get the thing at
Yeah.
the end. By the time I was done, I was like, I don't want to do yoga anymore. It was like, I mean, it was, and I felt so depleted and like, just like perpetually dehydrated that
Mhm.
I don't know, it was really difficult. But I'm sure there's a way to do it right.
I did it once. I took Brad's Ashtanga class many years ago. It was the 90-minute primary series.
Mhm.
But I should say I rode my bike to the studio,
Mhm.
took the 90-minute Ashtanga class, and then took a 70-minute hot class. Like I
Directly
rolled my,
after?
yeah. I mean, I rolled my mat, walked upstairs, unrolled it, and took hot. And then I rode my bike home, and I was
And you
confined
died?
to my couch. I was like, I'm done. I couldn't move. And I was, it was probably 5 years ago. I was a little bit younger. So I
Mhm.
don't know if that had anything to do with it, but I think we talk so much about taking care of your body. And if we're doing it for competition's sake, right? Or like um a challenge sake,
Yeah.
you have to kind of ask yourself like that would be my competitive nature to be like, I need to finish. And so I will do double classes, but is it really beneficial to me? I'm not sure.
Sure.
So I think it's all about the motivation behind it and why you're doing it. If you're doing it because you really like love both classes, you want to see how it
Yeah.
goes, if you can do that. But if it's about just doing it to get something done to win,
Yeah.
reassess.
I love the idea of like they do what, hot and then yin on
love
Hot and yin
Yeah.
is a great combo.
That's a great combo.
I think it depends on the person. We
Yeah.
have a lot of people who are, because we're in the Hottober Challenge right now, which has been awesome. I mean, we've got 40, how many on Saturday?
44.
44 people in
Mhm.
class on Saturday.
That was a lot of people.
So
Yeah, it was good.
awesome. But we have a lot of people doing 3 classes a day right now. I would say more 2, just if they're traveling or whatever. And yes, they're doing it for the challenge because there is an ultimate goal. But, um, talking with some of our members who are doing it and are very athletic and strong, and they're meal prepping and they're hydrating and they're resting, and
Yeah.
it depends on the person. I
Sure.
think there's also people who have maybe never done yoga and are stepping in, like you look at Kyle and his story and how it radically transformed
Sure.
his life and made him just quit a lot of bad habits and really stare things right in the face. So I think it totally depends. I do think you have
I
to
like
be
black and white answers. Come on, Jana.
No, it doesn't. There's no black and white.
I
There's none.
want an answer.
I
No,
think
that's good.
I think you got to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Especially if it's hots. I mean, if you're doing more than one hot in a day, you better be eating like hydrating foods and drinking a lot of water. And
Somebody was telling me that like a hot class will burn like almost 700 calories.
so Kevin, our bonus episode
Yeah.
gentleman who's doing it, he showed us his Apple Watch data, and he's
Yeah.
burning between 700 and 800 calories in class. Yeah. 600 on some, 730. Like I mean, yeah.
That's amazing. One thing I have heard though from the people who have done the challenge and have doubled up on days, or that they
Mhm.
feel so much better in the second class that they're
Mhm.
doing.
Oh, I could see that.
Way more flexible. Just really reaping the benefits, I think, of the poses.
Yep.
Because their body is like acclimated through that whole first class, and then they're coming back.
Yeah.
There was a woman who used to come to a studio where I used to work. She would come every single day, twice a day, in the morning and again at 4:30. She was really intense, but she also was very she was I believe a nutritionist, and who took amazing care of her body.
Yep.
And was incredible and always went like full bore. So
Mhm.
it worked for her.
Mhm.
I just who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah, it really does.
I think you're right.
It depends for sure.
We got a couple of comments here. Let's just check in real quick. Oh, my lease is here. Hi.
Hi, my
Hi.
Hi, Jared.
Jared,
Tina.
Cena, followed by Yin. Katie says, I love two-a-day. Fit flow combo is glorious.
Oh.
But one is fitness based and one is yoga based. Yin hot combo.
Amanda.
And Amanda.
Hi.
Hey, Amanda.
I like
She's-
totally snuck
she's-
in next to her today. I was
she's
like, I want to be in the
watching-
front.
Because she girl crushes on you hard.
I love her.
She was like, when's Gretchen's episode?
She helped me buy a house just
Aw,
recently.
she's
Aw,
sweet.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Well, let's talk about your journey.
Okay.
And you can start wherever you want to start.
Oh man. journey to yoga?
Towards yoga, I think
Okay.
ultimately.
Um,
let's try to get to yoga at some
We'll get
point,
there at
but
some
you
point.
can start wherever you like.
well, let's see. I'll start with yoga, like my journey to yoga. I remember I took a college class, and I wish my friend was watching because I would say, "Do you remember how loud you laughed in class?" I took a class when I was in college, and when we were in college, it was at a gym, and it was very quiet, and it was dark, and this lady just ripped the biggest fart in
Of
class.
course.
Of course she did, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
And so I can rein it in and be well behaved because I don't like to get in trouble. Jana knows that.
Yeah.
right? And so she was like, "Bah," and laughing and giggling, and I'm like, "Shut up." So I didn't go back to a yoga class probably for 10 years
Because of a
Wow.
fart.
because I was mortified at my friend, and I was just
Because
like,
of a
"Oh."
I mean,
fart.
it's called wind removing. It's gonna happen, right?
I don't even think we're in that, right? We're just laying there, maybe
Uh.
in a cat cow, and she just let it
Yeah.
go. So I
Cat
I
cow.
did not think that yoga was. My sister did it. She's 5 years younger than I am, and she would do it, and I would say, "Ugh, that's not real exercise." I was super snobby about it.
Yeah.
As I would throw my cigarette and walk into step aerobics
Yeah, nice.
because that's where it was at. Was
How
step
very
aerobics.
90s of you.
Yeah, did you have like the little leg warmers and everything?
I didn't have the leg warmers, nor did I wear the Leo that went up
Okay.
the rear. That's going back a little
You weren't
further.
fully
I wasn't
committed.
quite that old.
You weren't
I'm not
fully
that
committed.
old. So I did that. I was athletic, kind of. I like to party a lot. And I was thinking about that. I was like, oh, I wonder if Jana's going to ask this. And I think I wanted to be healthy, but I partied a lot. And I wanted to be healthy because
What is up with yoga instructors being like party animals previously?
I mean, all of us
We
at
all
some
have to-
point.
Yeah.
learn.
I mean, you were telling me about how you used to be the drummer for Metallica.
Oh. What? I told you that?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, man.
Anyway,
Awesome.
we'll
And-
come back to that later.
Yeah, no. So
Yeah.
my, could you just break out like a riff
I
right
mean,
now?
I don't remember telling Ken that. So I'm going to plead the fifth on that.
Okay.
But I think I wanted to be healthy because I was fearful of my mom died when I was very young. She died when I was 10 of breast cancer, and so I felt like I needed to work out. But like I said, I partied very hard, and I led two very different lives.
Sure.
So I didn't really find yoga until after I had my second baby, really. And I started to go to I did a P90X. Tony Horton and I like this. I love
He's the P90X guy.
He is, and he's incredible. I mean, he's like 60 and can do like 100 pull-ups just standing there like talking to you like on video. But
He's superhuman though.
I think he might be.
Yeah. He's like
think
one
he
of those
might be.
weird. Anyway.
So I did the P90X, the first one where it was a 90-minute yoga, and I remember being in Warrior 2 and feeling like these zings of energy through my fingertips and being like blown away. And so I did it, I finished it, and I really liked it and wanted to like dig more into it. So I started
Sure.
to go to the gym where I belong, which is the RAC, the Raintree Athletic Club.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
Mhm.
And I went there.
Right over here. Yeah.
Yeah. And I went over there and I started to take yoga and I really liked it. I went there and it was the one time of the day that I didn't think about anything but just
Mhm.
being in that space. I wasn't worried about my kids. I wasn't worried about what was happening in life. And I was just like sucked in. And so the teacher came up to me and said, I was looking for something, a new challenge, competitive, right? And I was looking for something different, finished P90X. And this girl said, why don't you do teacher training? There's a studio that's going to offer one. And that was
Mhm.
Elon.
Okay.
So
How long ago was this?
2000 and let's see, Valji was born in 2009. It's probably 2010.
Okay.
And so
See, this is so great because I always picture like all of my yoga instructors that they started yoga at birth.
no, I feel like I'm a late bloomer.
Like-
I was 30.
And so far that has
They
not
came
been the
out of
case,
the
other than
womb.
Jack.
They were born
Yeah.
Other than Jack, he did.
in
Yeah.
happy baby.
I
pose.
was 35
Yeah.
when I started yoga. Or when I got my teacher training certificate. And so I went over there and I talked to the owner who was amazing. He said, you don't really need to. I was a beginner and he said, you don't need to be an experienced yogi to go through teacher training. He said, as a matter of fact, it might even be better because you don't have any biases towards it and bad habits.
Sure.
And so I was sold, and I signed up for teacher training, and I was in it probably a month later. And that has kind of led me
To where you're at
to
now.
my mat. Yeah. And then it was just an explosion of, oh, this is it. This is where I'm supposed to be. This is who
It's
I
your
am.
jam, huh?
It sure is.
So Ken brings up an interesting point, because it does seem like all of the trauma and the events and the things that we experience in our life really do lead us to our mat eventually. Now there are people like Jack who just kind of, like you said, are born as as yogis. So you lost your mom at what age?
I was 10.
So tell us a little bit about what that was like for you as a 10-year-old girl. Did you have siblings?
I did. I had my sister who was younger than I am. So she was 5 and my brother was 14 or 15. So he was a freshman. I was in 5th grade and she was in kindergarten. It sucked.
Yeah.
It's devastating. I didn't know. I think it was in the mid 80s. And I feel like it was a time when parents weren't very communicative. Like if I was dying now, I would be having tons of conversations with my girls about
Sure.
what that would look
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
what their futures could potentially look like. And so for me, it was a little bit more hush hush. So she died on Halloween, which is crazy
Oh, wow.
because
Whoa.
her grandmother, my great grandmother, died on Halloween as well.
Well, at least you know when you're gonna die.
Yeah, right. Seriously,
Right?
Halloween it is.
I mean, that's a
Hopefully,
good day.
it is, right? It's like the saint. It's like with saints or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. 12 years of Catholic
Saints or
school got me
something.
nowhere, nothing. So they came home, and I'll never forget it. I was a car hop. She made my aunt Kathy, her daughter, and myself are about a year apart. So my aunt and my mom made us our Halloween costumes. We were car hops, and I remember wearing roller skates in school, Catholic school. They let me, it was, I came home from school, like all psyched, all ready to go out trick-or-treating. And my dad came home 3:13 in the afternoon and sat my sister and I down on the couch and told us that she had died. And it was like a slap in the face because I had,
Did you know she was sick?
I mean, I knew she was sick because she was like at home,
Mhm.
we went right before she went into the hospital, like as she was like actively dying, went to Canada on vacation with her sister and her sister's family and my family. I won't forget it. I forgot my suitcase, my whole suitcase for a week in Canada. They had to wash my underwear in the sink. I'm like, just go buy some underwear for your daughter. But so she got really sick there, and we got home, and she immediately went into the hospital and didn't come out.
Had she known previous to that she had
She
cancer?
did. They were
Yeah.
in Philly. Oh yeah, she
Okay.
got diagnosed. I mean, she let a lump on her breast go probably for a month or two. My dad had said she was
Wow.
kind of nervous, and
Mhm.
they had a scan, and they basically showed, I know my father, I'm not sure if my mother, but her whole body was basically inundated with cancer.
Wow.
So she knew that, and that's probably hence the Canada trip, right? One last
Yeah.
like hurrah, I suppose. And so so he got home, told us, and my brother walks in the door and he's like, "Why are y'all crying?" And it was like, "Well, mom's dead." I mean, that's
Yeah.
kind of how it went down. So didn't really know the magnitude, I guess, of it. So you're in 5th grade. I had to go to my dad for my first training bra, and I was thinking about, like, what are we training the girls for?
Whoa, Yeah.
Right? I mean, here, girls, now you get your real bra. But I
Yeah.
had to go to him for that. I had to
Sure.
go to him for my first period. He's amazing. He's like Mr. Mom.
Yeah.
Would
Would have had to be.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, yeah.
Like an incredible
responsibility.
man.
So how do you feel like that shaped the remainder of your childhood and on into your early years? Because, saying like, I partied a lot and these sorts of things, I think, are eventually kind of what brought you to
absolutely.
the physical practice of yoga. So what was that like for you growing up without your mom?
It was tough. I think my brother, my sister, and I all dealt with it very differently. I was the oldest daughter, so I felt like I had to really like kind of step up. And I was always pretty responsible, but like devious on the side. Um,
That's how you are now too.
a little bit. So it was definitely tough. We all I think we all tried to numb
Yeah.
ourselves
In various ways.
pretty much through drugs.
Yeah.
I think so a bit. We all kind of went down different paths. And so I was good in the aspect that, you know, I was raised with very good like morals and values and an idea of where I would be headed in my life.
Sure.
But to numb all of the feeling and the sensation of not having your mom, like it was very difficult. Like not necessarily, I mean, it was difficult growing up and I probably wouldn't put much stock into it, but it was more, I felt the effects of it when I was pregnant.
When you were
When I was,
Oh.
what is
Being
it?
a
The
mom.
baby registry. When I was like, damn, I wish I had my mom here. Cause I don't know
Yeah.
what bottle to get or what
Oh, that's an
Bibby,
interesting
things like that,
Oh,
like
that's-
those, like where you rely on your mom
Mhm.
for those
Huh.
types of situations. So growing up, I was able to really lean heavily on my father, but not,
as an
Yeah.
adult.
yeah. So I think numbing the situation probably I was clueless to what I was actually doing and just thinking,
Sure.
I'm 20,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna party.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
So, when did you grew up in Pennsylvania?
I did.
When did you make your way out to Colorado, and what was your life like at that time?
Okay.
Or what
That's
happened? You know,
yeah.
what was
Did
the
you come out here
catalyst?
for the weed and beer?
I did not. Wasn't legal yet.
The
I was
weed-
able
the
to
weed
get
wasn't
real
No,
there.
no,
weed
no, no, no. That's what I'm
back home. It wasn't until out here that I was
Ken,
like,
we know
oh.
that's why you came. Not everybody
No,
came.
it's not actually.
So I went to school and I took the delayed approach. I went to community college and I finished that and then I went on to university. And so I was going through school and I was still, you know, slowing down with, I guess, going out to bars and having a great time and focusing more on college, but I would still have those moments of going out and just letting loose. And so I finished up college and I started to apply just to schools everywhere because I knew where I grew up. I mean, it was an old coal mining town, right? You're
Mhm.
probably familiar with
Okay.
like those parts of like on
Yeah.
the East Coast. Old coal mining town, bar on every single corner. Street that I grew up on was very busy. There was 3 bars on that street alone. I tended bar on at one of them. And I knew that my path was not going to be a good solid path. So I started to apply
If you stayed there.
if I stayed there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have a moment? I know a lot of people talk about like a moment when you're like, ugh, I'm done.
I did, and
This
this
can't
is
happen.
dispelling like a lot, but like my friends, I remember being out with my friends and them offering me some drugs. We'll just call them drugs. Harder than just like your typical flower.
Yeah.
And and I remember saying no. I'm good. I'm just going to pull myself away from that situation.
Sure.
And I remember it being probably the hardest thing that I had done.
Mhm.
And that was it. And I started to just hang at home and really just kind of put the pedal to the metal with my school. And that
So you're in high school or you're
that
community
was-
college.
No, that was in college.
Okay.
Like after I finished community college, that was at the university, Wilkes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it was then, and that was
That
a
was the
big
moment.
part of it.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I wasn't stupid again.
Right.
Because
Sure.
Just
We all are.
We all are. And
I remember I actually had a very similar
Did you
experience.
really?
Yeah, totally. I remember like one
Tell
of
us
my
about it.
friends. I remember one of my friends, I was at like some kid's house during a party, and I remember some kid coming over and he had crack.
Oh, good.
Dude.
I was not offered
Right?
that. Let's just.
And he's like,
Holy cow.
hey. And I'm like, Yeah, no, that's not a,
Man.
and there was like something that like snapped in my head where I
Mhm.
was like, if I went like I could go down that road and that would be the end
You're
of
not
that.
just like in the kiddie
you
pool at
know.
that point
No,
anymore.
not
like,
at all.
You're in the
Yeah.
deep end.
And it was really weird too because I think he got it from some guy that he like bought weed from. Like it was like
Oh.
this like crazy like they
Wow.
say it's not a gateway drug.
How old were
Sometimes it
you?
is. 17 probably.
17.
Wow.
Man.
Oh, God.
Mhm.
I think about having babies and like them
Oh
being
my God.
17.
That's
and
what I think about too. And
Dude.
we all talk
Ooh.
about, what we've gone through and the things that we've done. And as a parent,
Ugh.
I mean, it it's so scary to
Oh,
think
yeah.
about your kids doing that. But
Oh, and yeah, I mean, I put my parents through hell. I mean, fortunately, I think they didn't know a lot of what was going on, but yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
as a lot of parents don't. Do you feel like you had open communication with your
I
dad?
was just gonna say I have like now I have told my dad some things and he's just like, what, really? Really? He's like, oh, I would have like never have guessed. I mean, I was pretty open and honest, and he knew I smoked a little bit of pot. Oh, a smoked pot. I won't. So, but the other things that, and he was like, oh, okay, wow, like that's
Mhm.
he didn't realize that
Wow.
to
Yeah.
that extent. Yeah.
Interesting.
So you're getting into you're diving into school,
Mhm.
getting more serious about school.
What did you graduate?
Sociology and elementary education.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Mhm. Why
And
elementary education?
I love I love kids and I always have. And it was just I'm a teacher
Mm-hmm.
and really I'm a born teacher and that was just seemed like the way to go. And all through community college where I went so slow through school was I worked in a daycare. I was like a teacher to the little toddlers and really to make sure I wanted to do to be a teacher.
Sure.
Yeah. So then I finished college and I applied everywhere outside of Pennsylvania. I applied to Vegas. I applied to a little town called Weldona in Colorado. And
what?
Weldona, it's out by Fort Morgan.
Oh, wow.
And at that time, I was attending bar at two places. One was a country club, and I met up, like I saw a girl there, and I went to school with her. And she said, oh, my brother's moving out to Colorado. He needs a roommate. You should get in touch with him. Because I was like, I'm thinking about moving to Colorado out of the blue, never stepped foot in the state. And so I got in touch with him. And and during that time, I had applied to this little place. And I got a call for an interview in that little town, that little village, as a matter of fact. And I was already decided that I was going to move to Colorado. And so I had the interview. I got the job
in Weldona.
And at that same time, I flew out with this kid to find an apartment in Boulder. And it was an 1.5-hour commute that I did
Oh, wow.
my first year out here.
How old were you?
I was 20. I just turned 25.
Okay.
So I'm pretty convinced that you could have found a place in Weldona that would have been cheaper than Boulder.
Have you ever been to Weldona?
No.
So they had school built, like school housing, and then just houses that like the farmers had owned and lived on. It was
There's nothing
no
there.
housing.
nothing.
So
There
you
was
could have
one
lived in
restaurant.
Fort Morgan?
I blinked my eye. I could have, but
Yeah.
so
That was
No.
quite the noise.
So
Fort
the
Morgan.
first time we went out for like a teacher meeting, we were at the one restaurant / bar in the village, and they had Rocky Mountain oysters.
Known for Rocky Mountain oysters.
on
Sweet.
the menu,
All right,
and
yeah.
I East Coast.
didn't
Like
know.
I was like, oh,
I
Rocky
love
Mountain
oysters.
Right.
Woo!
And they're like, no, do you know what these are? And
How
I
many
was-
did you eat before
I
they told you?
did not eat
Oh.
them. They told me I never heard of them before in my life. And they're like, oh, you should try them. They're great. No,
Oh, that's funny.
I have not. So, yeah.
So you came out, you were 25, and how long were you teaching in this village before you made your way this direction?
Let's see. I taught there for the first year. I commuted, and then I moved to Greeley, and I commuted from there and carpooled for 3 years. So it was like 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I slowly moved up the Front Range.
Mm-hmm. So fast forward then.
So you moved to. Let me get this straight.
Yeah.
So you were teaching in Greeley.
I was teaching in Wildona.
Okay,
I
but you were
moved
living in Greeley. Okay.
and carpooling.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Out to the Eastern Plains.
All right.
Wow, where you can light your water on fire, basically.
Exactly.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Mm.
So how old? So you're a mom. So you got here, and how old were you again when you started your teacher training?
I was 30. 33.
Okay.
33.
So what was that process
35.
like for you? Because I mean, I think you haven't done teacher training yet. Yet.
I'm gonna do the hot in January.
Yeah,
I'm
which
doing
is
it.
amazing.
It's a start, right?
It is a start.
big start.
It's a big start. But there is something really magical about a 200-hour training,
Oh, I
and
can only imagine.
that diving in, and I think it oftentimes brings up a lot of stuff, and it stirs the pot, maybe stuff that we've tamped down. So fast forward to 35, both daughters are born, or just one? Both. So tell us a little bit what that process was like for you going through that training.
The 200-hour teacher training that I went through was lovely. And I didn't want to teach. I absolutely didn't want to teach. I went just to kind of
Interesting.
learn a little bit more.
There's a lot of people that do that, right? I mean, there's a
Yeah.
lot of people that just go to training to just learn more and have
Yep.
more yoga experience, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
I think
Yeah.
so. And it was funny because I finished it and I was like, oh, I'm going to teach.
Oh, really?
I'm going to teach. Yeah.
Huh.
So immediately about 2 months following it, the studio where I did my teacher training did a quick hot training and said, if you want to teach hot, learn the series, do a live audit, and come in. So it was on Saturday. I did my live audit on Tuesday, and I was teaching. I had the class offered to me on Wednesday.
Oh, cool.
But the teacher training for my 200-hour was it wasn't as profound, dare I say,
Mhm.
as my 300-hour teacher
Mm.
training.
So tell us about your 300-hour.
So my 300-hour teacher training was with Gina Caputo in the Colorado School of Yoga. And she is a fiery woman.
Mhm.
And she's very passionate about yoga and teaching yoga, but also passionate about this is your one life.
Mhm.
And this
Mm.
is it.
Hmm.
And so you better be happy, because if you're not happy, then change it. And I was obviously married. My children, the father of my girls, I was married at the time and feeling a little bit unhappy.
Mhm.
And so that training really pushed me to go deep and really think about, you're not happy. What is it that you want?
Sure.
And so I finished my training, and really it was like all during the middle of that, just kind of thinking about like, what makes you happy? What makes you tick? Is this how you want to live your life? Is this how you want to spend your life? What do you want to do with it? That really pushed me to make some pretty drastic changes.
So your 300-hour
divorce.
So you got
Yeah.
divorced. I wonder how many people get divorced
You
after
know,
a teacher training.
I read
Great question.
I read a statement once when I was going in the midst of it, that
Mhm.
people who get involved in yoga, who are really involved in yoga through teacher training and like dedicate their lives to it, it's a 90% divorce rate for women who are like, for some women. No, that's not saying
Well-
every woman who practices yoga, but if you're
Whoa.
not happy, right? If you're not happy and
Sure.
you're kind of digging deeper. And
Okay. I
because
see what you're saying.
what's happening is yoga changes you
Mhm.
dramatically. It
Sure.
peels off those layers of who you think you are to get closer to your authentic self, like to really be true to you. And if you're living this, I felt like I was living this like stay at home life that was really awesome, and I was blessed to do it, but that wasn't like, I wasn't fulfilled. It wasn't enough.
Sure.
Mhm.
And so
And for some people, I'm gonna clarify
yes,
that
to say
statement,
some,
right?
'cause-
Because there's a lot of people that just go to yoga and it's just like, woo,
It's the
woo,
physical.
All right,
Right,
yeah,
totally.
I feel better,
Which
you
is
know,
fine.
and that's and
And
it's
that is-
Not that
to-
there's
like
anything wrong with that.
100% fine. And
Yeah.
I know that but when I first went to yoga, it was not because it wasn't because like, oh, I need a challenge. It was like exactly what you're talking about. I was like,
Yeah.
I need something like a way to, but I'm kind of like a junkie for that a little bit. Like
Mm.
I'll do whatever. Like if you tell me, hey, this is going to make you feel better, like go do this, not necessarily take
Like
something,
crack.
but like go,
I'm just
no,
kidding.
but like taking action
Yeah,
around it, whatever it
sure.
might be, then I'm like, oh, all right, like I'll try that, and see how it goes.
Well, I totally see that. I mean, when I did my 200-hour, I obviously didn't come out on the other end divorced, still with my very wonderful husband. But over the years, I mean, my yoga practice has definitely opened up things in my emotions, in my mental health, and with my relationship with Ben, that had I not been as happy as I am, probably wouldn't have chosen to work through those and figure that out. And so there is very much that it creates kind of that raw emotional effect in the body, or it can for sure, and in the mind and the heart. Um,
Well, you wouldn't have left your
so
last job,
I mean, so
right?
many,
I
yeah,
mean,
so
because you had been
many,
there forever.
almost 8 years, and I would have left, but so we'll just leave that there. So many changes from
Yeah.
just the practice alone.
Just practicing,
I
yeah.
mean, I can remember going through so many things
Yeah.
and working it out on my mat, and glad that I did work it out, and finding, just constantly finding what Gretchen is talking about, that fulfillment, that happiness, the reason why we're all here,
Sure.
So the statistic doesn't surprise me
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all looking to be better, right? And
Mm.
and or not better.
No,
but
no, no.
just, like, better
I
as in,
think
like, finding our like
We are.
who we
yeah, exactly.
are.
Like the three of us
We
are.
are.
But we, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. That would be amazing.
Yeah, it's
Right.
true. Well, practitioners are
No,
people
I know
stepping
what you're
on
saying.
their
Yeah, yeah,
mat, right? And so, and whether that is in a relationship, whether that's
Mhm.
a job, whether that's being a better parent, it's kind of
Mhm.
stripping you down. And that's, I think I should clarify. I wasn't unhappy, but
Sure.
it helped me realize, like, more
What's
about
important.
what is important
What's
to
important
me, and what,
for sure.
right, and what
Well, and what
wasn't
you're
serving me, and what was.
Mm-hmm.
and your purpose, like what you wanted to do and how you wanted to share your passion with others, and this, gift that you found, and what your life is going to look like if you
Yeah.
choose to do that. I think we've talked about this on the podcast before, but as yogis, as yogi teachers, as students, we all find that moment where it's like, okay, you're either all in or you're not living your yoga. I mean, so we've all made those decisions that bring us one step closer to that fullness of living your yoga off the mat, of
Mhm.
course.
If I had heard that 4 years ago, I'd have been
You wouldn't
like,
have done it. I
that is the
know.
most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
It is, and
living your yoga
and
off
it
your
would
mat.
be
Come
intimidating.
on.
I know, and people would be
You know?
like, "You're out of your
Rolling your
mind,"
eyes,
or
yeah. Mhm.
I have a really cool story behind that. When I was going through my divorce, I kept thinking, when I was practicing yoga, like, when is this enlightenment going to happen? Like,
oh yeah,
when am I going to look at the grass and see that it's actually greener?
Yeah.
And I didn't at all. And I was like, I want to be calmer. I want to be zen.
mm-hmm.
When is that going to happen? And when I was going through some really difficult times where I would normally fly off the handle, like really lose my temper, I found myself being the calm one in a situation, and really being able to detach, I guess you'll say, or step away from the situation, and be level-headed and logical. And
Mhm.
that, and then it was like, it hit me like a ton of bricks, and I was like, this is why I
Sure.
do yoga,
Yep.
because
Yep.
I'm able to look at the situation for what it is, not just be reactive.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that was pretty profound for me.
How many years of practicing do you feel like it took you to get to that point?
Years.
Yeah.
Um,
Or I guess maybe it was only weeks. Who knows? How long did it take you?
so that was, let's see, 2000 and, probably 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
5-6 years.
I mean, I feel like I can remember when I first started practicing yoga having the exact same thoughts. Like, when am I going to be enlightened? Like, when am I going to be dropping knowledge and calm and all? I had the exact same thoughts. And of course, it's not just this moment of like, boom. And for some people it is. But I took Kenyon's class last night, who Kenyon's another great instructor at the studio.
That's wonderful.
And he actually was saying in class, this posture isn't, you're not going to achieve enlightenment in this, half pigeon and this hip opening posture. And he's like, but these are like those little baby steps that take you through that process in a manageable way, right? Because can you imagine if all of a sudden everything changed for you? Like
I think there's a book about that.
how overwhelming that would be.
That a lot of people have read.
Yeah, it's very true. And
Yeah.
so it was the same for me, several years of practicing and then noticing those little shifts in my life where I'm like, wow, okay, this is what my yoga practice is doing for me. And that's why I'll never leave the practice,
No.
because I
Yeah.
see it daily.
So, and that's one of the things that's interesting about YogaPod is that most of the teachers there, if not all, practice there.
Mhm.
I mean, I've seen almost everyone in class.
I think that speaks volumes for the studio.
Yeah,
really
I mean,
does.
it's really it's and it's cool because I think there's a certain amount of like practice what you preach kind of
Well, yeah.
situation.
I mean, we
Right?
talked about this a few weeks ago. You have to practice. You
Mhm.
have to be on your mat. And we just feel really fortunate that people want to practice with us. Our number one goal in the studio was, this will be for teachers, right? We have number one goals for all aspects of the business, but the number one goal for the teachers is, we want this to be the best place you've ever worked and the best place you've ever practiced. And I feel like obviously lofty goals, but that's how we roll. So
Yeah. Awesome.
yeah.
I have a hot question for you.
I
Please.
like a good hot question.
Because so the challenge is interesting, but I get to a point where like today I'm like, okay, I'm definitely not doing this right, and I'm just going to keep doing this way because I don't know any other way,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you were talking about how you went to teacher training when you were early on, and so you were given a lot of good direction. And I don't know if it's just my like natural tendency to go, oh, I'm doing it wrong, because that's just kind of like what goes on in my head.
Mhm.
Like, or if I'm actually doing it wrong.
Are you talking
You
about
know
an
what I mean?
actual physical pose?
Oh yeah, for
Okay.
sure. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
and it's very rare that I'm like, oh, I nailed this.
I don't think we ever nail a pose.
Mm-mm. And you're
I
very,
really
you
really
have
do.
a big inner critic too,
Yes, I'm aware
because
of it.
you'll come
I'm aware
out
of that.
like, I'll practice next to you and like you've had a phenomenal class, and then I'll walk out and be like, that was awesome to practice next to you, Ken, great job. And you're like, oh, well, and you get all huffy, and so
Huffy.
about
Wow,
your
I
own
guess
practice.
I've got- I
But
guess
you
I've
know
got
what
things to
though? I
work on.
think we
No,
need
I mean,
I think you need that internal voice a little bit. I mean, you
yeah,
can't
to
not to an
push.
extent, but to push and to grow,
Sure.
right? And
Oh, yeah.
so and I really think that when you think that you're not nailing a pose, what does that even
I mean, I don't. It's a bad way of putting it, but you
Right.
know what I mean. I'm always like, oh, there's some like, I'm sure there's. Maybe it's just because it doesn't feel good sometimes,
Mhm. Well,
right?
106, 45%.
I'm like, it's got to feel
humidity.
better than this or whatever,
Yeah.
you know.
But I don't think so. I mean, I talk about that a lot. I don't think it gets easier.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think the poses get easier. We just get better at managing them.
Yeah.
Well, and
for
you start to
sure.
push harder, right?
Mhm.
The minute a pose becomes like easier, we're like, oh, I can take that further.
But so let's talk about push it further.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what does that mean to you both?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Wanna
to
go
me,
Yeah,
that's
you.
like grit your teeth and like,
No,
and it's
no.
not, and then no, and I know that it's not that. Like
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
talking to Kevin about it afterwards, and I'm like, and because he was talking about how he can't relax,
Mhm.
and I was like, well, there's a certain amount of that needs to happen, but there's also a certain amount that's not.
But you're not
Yeah.
relaxing in a hot class.
No, not at all.
Unless you're in Shavasana.
Yeah.
And that's when you get to relax.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure.
do you want to go first on
No,
that?
you go ahead.
So, oh man, it's a loaded question.
Yeah.
Because I think if we and we've talked about this, if you give people the and we talked about this during our hot training, but if you give a practitioner the lesser version, they're going
Mhm.
to take it.
Oh,
They're
for
just gonna take it.
sure.
So the way I like with Gina, she would just be like, I'm asking you to do it, right? Just
Mhm.
do it. And
Kyle
hold
is
on
very
to it.
direct these days.
Yeah. And because we already like, what is it? It's Einstein, right? Whether we can or we can't, we will.
Mhm.
Sure.
Right? And so you already make up your mind before you even go to the pose if you're going to stay in it for, I think, the whole time.
Oh,
Sure.
definitely.
And so I do think that it's really about tuning into your body and understanding it. Like, what are your limits, your physical limits, and say, okay, say you hit your physical limit, but you can still do more. Like, where's your breath
Mhm.
at? Like,
Mhm.
if you want to back out, are you still breathing? Are you still active?
Mhm.
So yeah, that's like such a tough question answer to a question, because I really
Yeah.
think that there's almost like you're pushing a door open and it's not going any further physically, then you should stop, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And let your body melt into it for a little bit, and then try again and see if you go further, because
Mhm.
that might be your edge for the day,
Yeah.
right? And I think every day is going to be different.
Mhm.
Every day. So whether you can take it 2 steps further than yesterday, or you have to take it 2 steps back, it's really about honoring your body and where you're at.
Mhm.
But I also don't think, if you're just kind of half-assing it, like,
Yeah.
and you're just hanging out
No,
in a
that's
pose,
not. Yeah.
then for me, it's like, you know me, like, don't compromise your alignment to just, if you're tired, back out of it if you're
Mhm.
tired.
Yeah.
So that's,
Yeah.
every day is a different edge. Every pose
It
is a
is.
different edge.
I think
Mhm.
that's the critical point, is that how you push on Monday is going to be different than how you push on Tuesday. I think
Once again, these gray
I
answers.
know.
I need black and white.
Well,
What is going on
here's
here?
a minor black and white for you, okay? Um, for me, to push in a posture means that I can go to the depth I know my body is capable of, maybe a little further, and I can breathe. That's the biggest thing for me, because when
Yeah.
I find myself like in an Ashtanga class, like, sure, I can take the side angle, that you're supposed to take with your hand flat on the floor and your body like folded in half. But I'm so breathless and uncomfortable and irritable in the posture. And so if I
Mhm.
can find space in a posture, even just a moment of like breath and like feeling it. Richard Freeman talks a lot about you discover so much in a yoga posture or a class in asana when you can be in the posture, and yes, it's uncomfortable, but you can remove yourself from that and really start to look at it from a different point of view and
Mhm.
feel it and find space within that. So for me, that's really the pushing
Hmm.
factor.
I think you
Interesting.
hit it on the head, especially with the breath.
Breath.
And it's so funny because if you like, so I got some yoga training, but then it was mostly Bikram.
Mhm.
They don't talk about breath at all.
I know.
And like not even a little bit. There's no like breathing anything, and so it's that has definitely been a challenge for me, but it's really helpful because I noticed that I like there's certain
Mhm.
poses where like I'll try to hold my breath and
Yeah,
that's just like
totally.
recipe for passing out.
I find it really fascinating that breath isn't talked about. So I'm not Bikram trained.
Yeah.
I really took a ton of Brad's classes and
Sure.
then just practiced on my own,
Yeah.
and probably bring in a little bit more of a vinyasa aspect with breath into the hot classes. But how could you do yoga and not breathe?
I don't know.
Mm.
I think
mean,
they just expect you to. Like they just think it's
that
a part
it's
of
innate, which
yeah, it is.
that's not wrong, right? Like your breathing should be innate, but there's something really, really fascinating that happens to the body when you start to control your breath.
Oh yeah.
Because
Mhm.
your pranayama, your prana, your
Yeah.
life force, and when you start to manipulate breath, that's when the body opens. That's when the mind opens.
Sure. Well, and I guess it starts with breathing, right? So I think
It
the
does.
assumption is that you're going to take that breathing exercise and you're just going to assume that for the
Incorporate
rest
it.
of
exactly.
class, which is
so hard to do.
almost impossible.
My very first yoga class, I think I told you guys about this, but the thing that
Did
was
somebody fart?
no, which have you ever farted in a class?
I don't.
I think yeah.
Probably
Oh,
not lately.
I did once years ago, and it was the worst ever.
Yeah,
Um,
I have.
really
SPD.
full.
sure.
No, it was loud and
Oh.
deadly. So it was like
Oh.
LAD. Anyway, the first yoga class I ever took, that was my biggest frustration. Is she's telling me how to breathe, and I'm so annoyed, and I'll do the postures, but I'm not going to do the breath. That's ridiculous. And that for me was a huge struggle, and I'm still learning to breathe. I do not have my breath down in class.
I hold my breath just naturally. Like I was
Yeah.
just
We
holding my
all
breath
do,
right
yeah.
then.
Yeah.
Like I'm like,
yeah.
you know, and
Yes, we do. I don't know why, but
yeah, the struggle is real for
Mhm.
sure. The breath part.
yep.
I think as teachers we have to, and you'll see this as like you go through your hot training, but we have to realize that when people come in and they're new practitioners, how we have to just let them be in the pose.
Yes.
Because telling them to do an uncomfortable pose
Mhm.
and to breathe properly, which isn't like you
Yeah.
know, is incredibly
It's
very hard.
incredibly challenging.
Yep.
I think the breath cues are more of a training ground for new practitioners, for them to just hear it over and over and over again. The biggest thing with the breath is once you understand that expanding is inhaling and contracting is exhaling, you can kind of start to figure that out. So like I'm rising, I'm inhaling, I'm folding, I'm exhaling.
Sure.
But it is a very mature practitioner who can practice and manage the breath for a full 60 to 90-minute class. I mean, that's really tough.
Yes.
And then invite bandas.
And then invite the bandas,
And then you're,
that anal lock.
Oh, okay.
you know.
It wouldn't
perfect.
be a, it wouldn't
It'd
be a
be-
yoga pod podcast
it would not
episode
be.
if we didn't say anal lock.
That's got to be part. That's got to be part of our theme song
I
for
think
sure.
I'd say it's like you're sucking air
Oh.
through a
Through-
straw through
your
your sphincter.
perineum.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, or your anus.
Yeah.
And he said it in class one time, and I laughed so hard I couldn't help it. It was very immature of me.
That is very immature of you.
I love
the thing
it.
that the thing that I think is cool about breathing, or that got explained, and I don't know who it was. It might have been Kyle, maybe it was you. I don't know. But it was, and I hear it pretty regularly. Is that if you breathe normally, or you can control your breath, then your body thinks that this is what it's supposed to be doing,
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be Kyle.
right?
That sounds like Kyle.
Instead of like, oh shit, like this is really hard, like you know, like
Yeah.
that, like panicked breathing,
Totally.
you know, that happens when you're in.
It does.
You
It sets you
know.
off into fight or flight, and
Oh,
then you
for
just
sure.
want to get out of the classroom.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that way like half the time in some of those standing
Yeah.
poses.
Well, and we're
Oh,
just,
yeah.
That's how I feel about the floor series.
Mm,
Really?
Yeah, the floor, all those back bends.
Yeah, the camel.
brutal.
You know, and we're really
Camel, I'm just afraid I'm going to pass out. Like
Oh,
that's
yeah.
that is my like legitimate fear, is that I'm going to do this and
Definitely.
I'm just going to boop, done.
That really encourages people to come, huh? Like new people. We're just really trying not to pass out.
Don't worry. You'll be okay.
You'll be fine.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't able to do camel for probably 2 years following.
I can't do
during my
camel.
divorce and all that. Just it's so incredibly vulnerable.
I won't do camel. I should say that. I know it's such a mind game. And when you were like, you know how you're going to do a pose before you even do it. I know, like when I take Friday hot on Friday, I know I'm not doing camel. I
You
know
will
it.
this Friday.
You just watch and
He's
see.
gonna be like elbowing you.
And
all day.
it's the only posture
Uh,
in the whole series that I skip. The only one. And every day I know I'm not going to do it.
because of vulnerability.
Well, if that's what you call it, I don't know. I don't feel good when I do it. And so maybe it is like an emotional vulnerability, or, you know, a parasympathetic response to like
is it supposed
opening.
to feel good?
I mean,
I don't know.
your belly's exposed. If you're an
Your-
animal, like your
Mhm.
neck. I mean, it's your heart.
It's like it's a
chakra,
very like that in fixed firm.
Yeah.
like the most awkward. We like
I
that's
love that
not
one.
yeah.
I love that one too. It's my
For
favorite.
and I think it's just like like a hip
Mhm.
situation for me that
Yeah.
it's just not. It just feels so. I feel so contorted, but I
I
like force myself to do it.
yeah, well,
I don't like it. I'm not
so
like
you're
I'm not
saying I
like
should force myself to do camel?
no, not at all. Do whatever you want. But it's when I do that, there's a reward to it.
Yeah.
And also we only do it once. Like
I thought it was fixed fern until about a month ago.
I thought it was fixed fern too. I think I probably go back and forth.
I
Fixed
was
firm,
like, wait, did you
right?
say fixed firm?
It's
Oh,
firm,
it's not
right?
fern.
It is fixed firm, right?
Firm, yeah.
Fixed firm,
I
F-I-R.
thought it
Firm.
was
Yeah.
Okay.
fern,
Yeah.
FERN, like two, like
fern goalie.
like in
Yeah.
between two ferns or whatever,
Mhm.
Yeah, fern
Fern
goalie.
goalie.
Fern
Oh,
Gully.
man.
Great.
Okay, that's really funny.
So
Good kids
you've
reference.
been Gretchen, you've been teaching now for 8 years, 7 years?
Coming up on 8 years. Yeah,
So Gretchen has like 800 hours of training, is that right?
I do.
800 hours
That's
of
awesome.
training.
It's fun.
She's a phenomenal teacher, and you would never, I mean, I would never look at you and guess that these things that have happened in your past. So how have you found yourself now to such a beautiful place in your life, teaching, and you have a wonderful partner, and it just seems like things are really good for you,
They are.
which is awesome.
They're amazing. And all very, I think, unexpected.
Mhm.
So you asked me how did I come
Yeah, well, I
up
mean,
with
do you think obviously it's a process, right? It's
It
a
is a
journey,
process.
but are there any things that have happened along the way that really stood out to getting you to this place, or has it just been the consistency and diligence in your practice?
I mean, my practice was first and foremost through all of like just the tough things that life throws at you. However, I really try to, and I fight, and it's a constant battle, but to just believe. We've had this conversation before, I know, Jana, and
Mhm.
to let go of control. And when I let go of control and just really said, like, I'm open to the next thing, it was, or when I would state something and I felt like the universe just had my back
Mhm.
constantly, it was, okay, I'm ready to do this. And it was like, and one thing after another, after another. And so it was just about believing that I would be taken care of
Mhm.
with practice, and really just honoring my true self. I feel like through the yoga practice that helps you become more authentic, the universe sees the work. And I know this sounds like pretty hippy dippy, but the universe sees the work that you're doing to keep scratching the surface and to keep getting deeper. And the deeper you go, the more the universe says, okay, you can handle this next thing and this next thing. And sometimes those things are really wonderful and
Mhm.
amazing, and sometimes they're really difficult. But it's about being true and just, and when
Mhm.
you're true to yourself, things flow in. I
Mhm.
really believe that.
Mm.
Jacob, he kind of just was in my like was there, was presented to me, and
Mhm.
I fought it. I don't know if I've ever told you that, but I was like, oh no, and it
That's your partner, I'm assuming.
it is
Okay.
my partner, and and I remember saying, like, if I go, when I get into another relationship, I did want it to be somebody who practiced yoga,
Mhm.
because that was really important to me. And I think as you're growing through your own practice, that they should be growing in
Theirs.
themselves as
Mhm.
well, and whether that's through yoga or something that they have that's a spiritual.
They say you're either growing together or growing apart.
Yeah,
It's very true.
Right.
that's it.
Very
I mean,
true.
that was my situation, I feel like, and which is fine,
Yeah.
very different people growing apart in
Yeah.
very different ways. But Jacob and I are so much on the same page, and that's been like a really beautiful thing that I think I was like, okay, well, you're ready
Mhm.
for this part now.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of where
Well, and
we're at, and I know that there's more growth to come, and I'm just trying to let
well, what
let
happens if
myself
we're
be
not
open.
growing, right?
We're stagnant.
We're
We're
usually going backwards.
going the opposite direction.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
you watched last week's podcast, Allie has really great insight into why when you reach for that next best thought or that next best thing in your life continues to build in momentum because you're kicking out that frequency, and that's what you're kind of calling in. And so, you saying just one next step and gaining from there is not super hippy dippy. I mean, it is kind of the reality that we live in.
It's true.
Everything's energy and vibration, and you're going to find those things that you resonate with. And
So I'm going to totally butcher this, but I'm going to say it anyways. There was a great podcast that Joe Rogan just did with Rhonda Patrick. You should go check it out if you haven't. It's the most recent one that she did. She's done a bunch of them. She's a doctor. She works at, I don't know, some fancy hospital somewhere or something, writing fancy papers. But they were talking about the placebo and the nocebo effect, and how there's a certain amount of the public that is actually more prone to the nocebo effect than other. And so, and I was trying to talk to my son about this the other day, because he was talking about how he couldn't do something, and I'm like, well, if you keep telling yourself that, then you definitely won't be able to. And he's like, well, if I tell myself, it doesn't mean that I'm just going to be able to do it. And I was like, oh no, that's not what I'm saying at all. That's not the way that this works. The way it works is, like, if I tell myself, like, I don't know that I'll ever be able to tell myself that I'm a good yoga practitioner, but that I'm an okay yoga practitioner or whatever, know, or like, I can do this. There is something that shifts, it's like, if I tell myself, like, oh, I can do camel, or I want to, or however I frame it, like, there is something that shifts in us, so, and whether we recognize it or not, there's like that amount of like positivity or, goal, however you want to look at it, really helps. And there is actually scientific data behind that.
There's a book called Change Your Mind, Change Your Body.
Sure.
And there is a lot of scientific data behind it. And if you pull away the scientific data and keep it more ethereal, it's like the feeling. So if you can find the feeling, then you're going to continue to keep cultivating that feeling over and over again.
Negative or positive.
Exactly.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I have a final question for each of you. So because we are, over an hour?
Yeah, we're running out of time. That's all right.
But before I do, was there any questions? I can't read them from here.
So I feel like, I don't know if I know Sina. Is it Sina or Sina?
It's Sina.
Sina.
Yeah.
So she might have been reading my mind, because triangle, hate it. And she said,
love it.
I used to
I
hate
love it.
triangle, but
I
now
love
I
it.
love it. Love how it changes throughout the journey.
Yes. Very
My
true.
lease says LAD, and then
What was that
Enoch,
again?
of course.
Louder.
And Madeline, she loves camel. It's the best.
Oh, she does. Madeline loves all back
Jump.
bends.
She says, Jana, come to class. I'll get you to love camel.
Oh.
That is like the
Challenge
challenge right
accepted.
there.
Yes.
I like doing camel against the wall, pushing your hips into it. Oh, interesting.
Good one.
I think Madeline, we had a conversation the other day about her least favorite pose. Ooh, Madeline, I can't remember, but I think it was tree. I think she hates tree pose, maybe. Madeline will have to correct me on that. But yeah, but she loves back bends.
Oh,
You back
interesting.
benders.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm not one of them.
I'm getting there. Brad told me that I should be doing like 9 back bends a day, with counting to 9 breaths,
That
and
would
then
do
I'll
it.
love them.
Do you want to borrow my yoga wheel?
Yes,
I'll bring you one.
I do. We need a yoga
Have you
wheel
ever
sponsor.
Seen one of those? It's like 12 inches in diameter, and
Yeah.
it looks like a wheel.
You roll over
And
it.
you just roll over it. They're intense. So
Mhm. I'll do it.
I'll bring you one.
So my
Wow.
final question is, Ken, first.
Mm-hmm.
For anybody out there who is really going through something hard, whether it be a divorce or struggling with addiction, what would you tell them about yoga that could encourage them to come to the mat?
So I think So I think the biggest piece is that as a society, or generally, a lot of people have a problem like following through on things,
Mhm.
like actually getting, people saying, "Oh, I'm gonna wake up today and I'm gonna do 50 sit-ups or
Mhm.
whatever it is," or "I'm gonna wake
Yeah.
up today and I'm gonna do blah blah blah," and it's like that little victory, that you go to class. There's not a whole lot of options.
Mhm.
Like, you're gonna do it.
Mhm.
Everybody around you is doing it. You go and you do it and you get done. And if that's the only thing that you do for yourself that day,
Mhm.
it's a victory.
Yeah.
And it propels you into that kind of positivity.
That habit.
Yeah. And the
Mhm.
habit and, everything that goes along with it. But it's that like little like glimpse of victory,
Mhm.
and that
That's good.
little like win.
I like
So,
that.
yeah.
What about you, Gretch?
I would tell the people that I think oftentimes that we're afraid to come into a situation or into a classroom and let all of our stuff lay out on the line. And one thing I would say is that we're all there.
Mhm.
We're
Oh, yeah.
all dealing with
Totally.
something,
Mhm.
and we're all there because it feels safe,
Mhm.
and that it's a place where you can just be, whether that's laying down, being in child's pose, or doing a class, and to know that they're not alone,
Mhm.
that we're all in it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're all in it.
Yes, we are.
I agree. And that's similar to what I would say. So I'll ask myself the question and answer it.
Hey, Jana.
Hey. Yes, I think just coming as you are to me is really, really important. You don't have to have the clothes, you don't have to be able to do the poses, you don't have to look perfect or have the body. Just come to the mat and see what's there for you. I think you can never discount the value of something until you've tried it for yourself, and come find out and give it a couple shots just to see what happens. The other piece I think that's critical is the community. And when you are struggling with anything, your community, even if they don't know what's going on, to have people there that are passionate about the same things as you and that care about you, is there's no value. You can't put a price to that. And that's something that I really love about the studio. I feel like the community that we've cultivated there and the people, and all of our teachers are so passionate about yoga, and our family there, that there's so much value in that. And you're not alone.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's different for everyone.
It's
Everybody comes in
different.
there and they get whatever it is that they get out of it. Right?
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
which is cool.
Yeah.
So
What did they say? Take what you need, leave the rest.
Yeah.
they do say that.
Exactly. And it's so true.
Yeah.
So try it if you're struggling.
Yes. If you are listening to this and you are not a yoga practitioner, or you are a occasional,
Yes.
go do it.
Do it.
Yeah.
See what's there.
It'll change you.
Yeah, just and talk to your teachers.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We love it. We love it
Mhm.
when you talk to us.
Yeah.
We really do.
Yeah, we like to get to know you, and I've never met a yoga teacher who's not incredibly passionate about their students. So,
And compassionate.
and
Cool.
compassionate. Yep.
All right. Last words.
Well, I just thank you, Gretchen.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks for coming
We
in.
love
Yeah,
you.
that
Thank
was
you
really
so
fun.
much.
Ken, you're not as scary as I thought.
Ken's not scary at all.
I'm not.
He's just a big teddy bear.
Something like that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.